We are covering this text from I Am That. These are teachings from Nisargadatta Maharaj. And the questioner is asking a question to Nisargadatta Maharaj. He says, misunderstanding oneself and the world leads to false ideas and desires, which again lead to bondage. Right understanding of oneself is necessary for freedom from the bondage of illusion. He says, I understand all this in theory, but when it comes to practice, I find that I fail hopelessly in my responses to situations and people, and by my inappropriate reactions, I merely add on to my bondage. Life is too quick for my dull and slow mind. I do understand, but too late, when the old mistakes have been already repeated. Now, isn't this our story? Isn't this everyone's story? We understand a lot of things intellectually, but when it comes to living the message of Advaita, when it comes to the complete embodiment, that is where we fail. And it is okay because the complete deliverance of this message takes time. It takes its natural course, and everybody has their own unique process to this understanding. So, some people may get it quickly, some may take very long time. And it is the mind which is often impatient and it wants to, it wants to just understand this concept quickly. So he says, Maharaj says, then what is the problem? To which he says, I need a response to life, not only intelligent, but also very quick. It cannot be quick unless it is perfectly spontaneous. How can I achieve such spontaneity? Now, this comes from the ego. You see, the ego thinks like this, it wants a state of perfection. So it says that, whatever the conditions may be, I should be able to handle that condition with a perfect response, a calm response. But you see, this doesn't happen in real life. Whether you will react to a situation or be able to respond depends on the situation and your past conditioning. If by temperament you are an aggressive personality, if you've come from that kind of background, then it is natural to have a reaction. Now, Nisargadatta Maharaj himself was a short tempered person and he accepted it that he was like that. But this is not, say, someone like Ramana Maharishi was always quiet and calm. He was a very different personality. So, comparing yourself to the masters or how they react or how they should react, that is a complete fallacy. And that is what the ego is trying to do here. It wants a perfect response, a spontaneous response at every situation. But the response should be according to my idea of what is right and wrong. So Maharaj says, the mirror can do nothing to attract the sun. It can only keep bright. As soon as the mind is ready, the sun shines in it. So beautiful. So mirror is actually the mind here. And when he says that as soon as the mind is ready, the sun shines in it. That means as I become aware of my self consciousness, the I thought, my mind is ready. And the light is always shining through my mind. But the mind cannot grasp the pure awareness. That is the source. And this is the thing, because we see everything through the lens of the mind. So we also imagine awareness as an object that the mind has to grasp. Then, then the questioner asks, he says, "Are you in a perfect state?" And to which Maharaj responds, I'll read it out. Perfection is a state of the mind when it is pure. By pure, he means when it is harmonious and still. So when the mind is still, you have a natural state, a calming state, but it is still a state. I am beyond the mind, whatever its state, pure or impure. Awareness is my nature. Ultimately, I am beyond being and non being. So, again, you see what is happening here is that the questioner is again identified to a perfect state. Now, let me give you an example. Like, say in your daily interactions, you come across different people. Some are polite, some are not very nice, right? And you always expect that I should have my perfect behavior all the time. Now, it is unrealistic to have that kind of expectation. And what the questioner here is indicating, that if I grasp the I am, the pure state, which he is imagining as an object, will that state give me the spontaneity to evoke the right reaction or response at the right time? That means that I will never react, I will always respond. And Maharaj says that it does not matter whether you react or you respond, because it is all happening in the awareness, and awareness is the only truth. And then he says, will meditation help? Now, to this, Maharaj says that meditation will help you know your identifications with the things around you. The only thing meditation does is expose that connection, that bond which you have with the objects of your affection around you. And the more you watch that, the more clarity comes in the mind as to what this relationship is. So, this can be a relationship, or it can be your association with people, it can be your association with your wealth, money, objects, anything it can be. And the mind shows, and the meditation shows you that. So, meditation essentially what means here is no mind. When I say no mind, what that means is a still mind. So, when the mind is still, all these identifications are seen for what they are. And that is the state of no mind, is the samadhi state. So the dialogue continues, and then the questioner again comes back to the same thing. He says that, who brings me here? How am I here? And to which Maharaj says that the same power, it is the same power, the same truth that has brought you here, and that has awakened this seed of desire in you to know the truth. And then the questioner says, but the same power kills me. And to which Maharaj says, now I'll read this out. He says, were you not present at your birth? Will you not be present at your death? Find him who is always present, and your problem of spontaneous and perfect response will be solved. So, what Maharaj is trying to say here is that when the message of non-duality is grasped, when the final deliverance happens, the need to be the right person, good person, correct person, moral person, virtuous person, all these needs dissolve. There is no more a need to be the right person because all reactions, all responses are accepted. Because whatever happens, happens in the moment, and nobody is in control of what happens in the moment. This was one of the core messages of Sri Ramesh Balsekar. So, the need for perfection is the need of the mind. It is not the awareness that judges. It is the mind which colors the world according to its own conditioning. The mind is a result of conditioning, and that is how it creates a limited, filtered perception. And this perception enables interhuman interaction, like this interaction we are having together. But again, now this final text I'll read out, which says, to realize the eternal is to become the eternal. The whole, the universe, with all it contains. Every event is an effect, an expression of the whole, and is in fundamental harmony with the whole. All response from the whole must be right, effortless, and instantaneous. Delayed response is wrong response. Thought, feeling, action must be one and simultaneous with the situation that calls for them. Now, the right and wrong he's talking here is in terms of the spontaneity. So, if a reaction is spontaneous, say someone said something and you felt offended and you reacted, that is a spontaneous reaction. You didn't think that, oh, if he says that, then I will react. If you give it a thought, then that means the mind has already interpreted a coming something which is coming, something unpleasant which is coming, and it has created an appropriate response based on its own conditioning. So, for example, if a person you say you don't go along with, right, comes over and sits next to you. Now, the person isn't saying anything, but you are imagining, if this person says like this to me, then I will respond like that. Now, that is a delayed response. So, that is what Maharaj calls a wrong response because it is from the mind. It is not a spontaneous reaction. Now, what happens in the spontaneous reaction is that you don't pay any heed to that person who's sitting next to you. And if they say something, you simply execute, you simply react or respond, whatever it is, based on your conditioning. So if he says something nasty and you respond this in a similar manner, you accept that that has happened. And then there is no shame and guilt about it later on. In the moment, you may feel little bad. Okay, and even you may even apologize to the person. You may say that, okay, I'm sorry, this reaction was not warranted, but it happened. Note my words, it happened. And this is the greatest teaching which took a long time for me to grasp. And Ramesh Balsekar has said very clearly that what happens in the moment, nobody is in control of that. So when the Buddha says that samsara is dukkha, what he means is, samsara is dukkha means the world, samsara is the world of names and forms, is dukkha. Dukkha means suffering. It's a loose translation, but it means overall suffering, which includes all kinds of irritations and restlessness and everything. So samsara and dukkha, suffering, is always in the moment. The suffering is always in the moment. And that suffering, that pain cannot be avoided. So if this mind-body organism is destined to feel hurt in the moment, it will feel hurt in the moment. If the mind-body organism is destined to suffer, it will suffer for some time. But when the message of advaita is understood, that suffering cannot propagate in horizontal time. That is the only difference. So whatever happens, happens in the moment, but nothing gets propagated in horizontal time and nothing becomes my story. The story is dropped. And the daily actions become spontaneous. Now imagine what a beautiful state that is to be in. That is truly the joyous living. You're feeling pain in the moment, you're feeling pleasure in the moment, there is complete acceptance, there is no resistance to anything, and there is no story about it. So I think I will conclude this this text here. This was a bit complicated, so I would request you to watch it a couple of times, because every time you watch it, you may. I mean, these teachers were really brilliant. Their teaching is so deep that you can spend your entire life reading this, and every time you read, you will discover that you know something new. So, thank you. We'll meet again.